Ohio Conservative here. Today we're going to be talking about the differences between conservatism and, well, we really can't say liberalism anymore because according to Webster, a liberal is an open-minded person that is interested in both sides of an issue. That does not describe the liberal Democrats today. So we won't call them liberals because they're not. Actually, conservatives of today are the old liberals because conservatives do want to look at both sides of an issue. So we'll just call them Democrats, or my favorite, commie Democrats. So what do conservatives believe? Well, conservatives believe in God, first of all. Conservatives do not believe in big government. We want small government. We want government off our back, out of our house, out of our bedrooms. We don't want anything to do with it. All we want is a government to provide good roads and protection. Okay? We believe, conservatives believe, that if you just leave us alone, we'll create our own opportunity. We'll create opportunity for others. We'll create great jobs, high-paying jobs. Okay, now, so the commies, they don't believe in that. They believe that you are so stupid that if they don't intervene in your life, you will never find a way. You just can't possibly do it without them. And that's why they police and they try and govern every aspect of your life because you're incapable of doing it. Let's look at some of that. Let's look at some of the things that they do. Conservatives, they talk to each other and they complain about the commie Dems. But you know what? Other than the 200 or so lunatics that marched on the Capitol, you don't see them burning stuff down. You don't see them looting and rioting. You just don't see that because conservatives aren't that kind of people. But the commie Dems on the other side, the end always justifies the means to them. So whatever it takes to cause mass chaos and confusion, and especially division, then they're for it. You know, how many times did you hear, we heard all summer long, last summer, we saw riots, we saw entire cities being trashed, burned, looted. People were killed just because they had a MAGA hat on. You don't see conservatives doing that. So let's talk about division for a second. There's one name that unites us all. Americans. That unites us all. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter what we are, as long as we're just Americans. And that's how conservatives believe. We're Americans. I'm not an Irish conservative. I'm not a heterosexual white conservative. I'm just an American. Okay? I'm united with every other American. Now, who created all the labels? Huh? That's right. If you would have guessed commie Dems, you'd be right. Yep. They came up with all the labels. Can't be just an American. You have to be an African American, and then that's translated now to just they call it a POC, a POC, a person of color, okay? Or you have to be a gay American, or a lesbian American, or a transgender American. You can't just be an American. And you know why? Because commies deal in division. So every time they give you a label, say gay American, okay? Well, that already puts you at odds with people that they would label straight Americans, okay? So there's a divide. This evil person over here does not agree with you people over here. So they cause the divide. They cause the division. What other labels? Now we have intersectionality. We have all kinds of crazy labels, all generated by the commie Dems to keep us fighting. And there's a reason for that. As long as everybody is fighting with each other, they can't really get focused on what the real issue is. And the real issue is that these commie Dems are taking over society. All right, now we've got critical race theory being taught in our schools. So our kids are being taught by these commie teachers. That's right, you heard it here, commie teachers. Their union is full of commies, all right? They're teaching these little kids that they are already racist by virtue of their color. That's right. In America today, if you're white, and if you're a white guy like me, oh my gosh, you are a racist. Now, I grew up in inner city Youngstown, and there was about every person that you could imagine. We had Italian hoods, we had Irish hoods, we had Czechoslovakian hoods, we had Polish hoods, Puerto Rican hoods. We had hoods for everybody. And you know what? We all got along. We all got along. Till somebody comes in and starts promoting, well, you know what? These people over here, these Irish, they're no good because they won't let you Italians in. They're exclusively Irish. All you need to do is plant the seed, and that's what they do. So they started planting the seed with every single nationality, and yes, even the black people, to which we got along fine until they started telling them that all these filthy Irish people over here aren't treating you right. Well, then they start thinking, well, maybe you're right. Maybe these Irish people aren't treating us right. Maybe we should be treated better. That's how it starts. That's how it starts. And the commie Dems want all this happening because we can't see that they are trying to destroy our society and take it over. Because one thing that'll never happen, today we hear all this social injustice. Now, what's social injustice? Social injustice is any time a white person does anything to a POC, a person of color, they have committed the crime of social injustice. They have wronged that person. No matter what happens, no matter, the POC could be at fault, doesn't matter. That's against social justice because these people have been mistreated. They can do whatever they want. They can burn cities. They can loot. They can steal other people's stuff. And you know what? How about the great excuses for why that's allowed? Well, I remember seeing one of the BLM people on TV, and they said, well, you know what? That's fine. They can go in and take whatever they want because that's just reparation. Really? Reparation. And some of these people were doing it against their own people, black-owned businesses. They're in there stealing stuff that another black person has purchased for resale. And they're taking it because they're owed reparations even from their own people. I heard another person say, well, it's all right if they're in there and they're stealing stuff so they can go home and eat. Well, they didn't have to worry about it because they were being paid to be there. So they were getting paid to protest, paid to burn buildings down, and paid to loot. So money wasn't an issue. They were on somebody's payroll. We still haven't found out who, But we knew that they were being put up in high dollar hotels, and that doesn't come cheap. And the hotel owners weren't doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So we have that, causing division. So you have one group of people pitted against another. You have responsible people over here that want law and order. They just want to go to work their 8, come home, enjoy life with their family, and then you have these other people that are just wreaking havoc. Okay? So let's go beyond social justice. Now we have equality. Or no, not equality. I'm sorry. Equity. So now we have to be concerned with equity. Equity and justices. So the best I can come up with for that is going back to the same thing that they try to do in the schools, that are being taught by the commie teachers, that they're trying to guarantee outcomes. Okay, so when we talk equity among the races, then this race should have the same things this race has. That's equity. Regardless of if one race didn't work for it or not, doesn't matter. Equity means you have what these people have, one way or the other. And if the taxpayer has to pay for it, fine. That's how it goes. That doesn't work. Now, we learned it in the schools, which this was all just a ruse to get the commie teachers more money. Because you can put me in a room, and you could put my brother in a room, and it doesn't matter how much money that you spend on the two of us, the outcome is not going to be the same. I have a different capacity than my brother. I have a different skill set than my brother. So you could spend $100,000 on us a year apiece, and the outcome is not going to be the same, even though we're two white guys. That's just humanity, okay? No two people are going to be alike, all right? We are created equal, but our capacities are given to us by God. When we're created in the womb, that boom, 1 second when the cells divide, we're given everything we'll ever have by God. And no amount of intervention by a commie educator is going to change that. Now, here's what they can do. They may not be able to change your skill set, but they can change your thought process. And that's where all this crap comes in with your social justice and your white supremacy. That's the new one. That's awesome. Now, some person of color came up with this idea that there's 8 steps of white supremacy. 8. And white people are supposed to decide where they are on this 8-step ladder of being a white supremacist. Now, none of the steps are good. Even the best step, you still have to admit you're a white supremacist. You're a racist by birth. Only white people can be racist by birth. And they're teaching this to our kids. They're getting our kids and they make them march up in front of the class and apologize for their white supremacy, for their white privilege. Now, does that unite anybody? I don't think so. So, we keep pushing the divide further and further and further away. And why are the commies doing this? Because they know sooner or later, one group, and who knows who it's going to be, the white supremacists or the victims of white supremacy, no matter who they are, one of these groups is going to say enough is enough. And they're going to start pushing back. Now, the commie Dems that are running the government now know that. Why do you think that all of a sudden they're coming for your guns? because they know that guns mean you can resist. And you know what else affects resistance? The amount of bullets you can have in your gun. So when Joe Biden says, well, nobody needs more than 5 rounds in their weapon. Well, if you have 100 rounds in your magazine, and it's a magazine, it's not a clip, only an M1 Grand has a clip. So if you have 100 rounds in your magazine, you can resist a little bit longer than someone that just has 5, can't you? And they know that. And that's why they're coming for them. Because they know sooner or later that the conservatives, who just basically sit back and want to be left alone, are going to take as much as they can take. And that's why Trump had to go. You see, Trump was the only one that was standing in the way of them making America last. Trump and his America First movement was just a thorn in their side, because these commies don't care about America at all. All they care about is power. And they don't only want power here, they want power globally. That's why now you see Sleepy Joe, or Incoherent Joe, just said he gets up in the morning in the White House and asks his wife, where the hell are we? That's an indicator. Now, could he be just making a joke? Could. Of course, he could be actually telling us the truth. You know, just like he did when he said he put together the greatest group of people to commit election fraud. Remember that? Yeah, well, we'll see. YouTube may take this video off because you're not allowed to say that. You know, that's against the thought police. So, they got rid of Trump because that Trump is what stood in their way. And these psychos, I mean, did you see them during the sham impeachment? They're up there and they are so filled with rage and hate, their hands are shaking. Their hands are just shaking. Of course, I think that may be some medication that Pelosi's on. I've never really seen anybody do the kind of things she does with their hands. That's another video. They had to get rid of Trump. So they did. So Trump's gone. Now these commies control the House, the Senate, and the White House. But there's still somebody standing in their way. Us. The people that supported Trump. The almost 75 million people that are fed up with these commies doing what they're doing to our country. Now we have to go. And that's what their focus is turning to now. They're already developing laws. Pelosi is already trying to run through the House laws that if we say anything they don't like, because now remember, the commies now are in control of what is hate speech. They define it. And their definition of hate speech is anything they don't agree with. So, since they're defining hate speech, and they're developing their laws so that if they find that anybody is guilty of hate speech, they can be put on a list as a domestic terrorist. So you see, sooner or later, everybody who disagrees with the commies, and that's all of us conservatives, we are all going to be domestic terrorists, which means we won't be able to keep a gun. You know, for all their talk about how tolerant and inclusive they are, there was only one country that disarmed their dissenters, and that was Germany, and it was done by Hitler. Maybe his name was Adolf Pelosi. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. Fact check me on that. That's where they're going with this. Because you have to understand, conservatives, like I said before, we believe in God. The big thing, okay? We have no problem. Did you ever notice that the conservative politicians have no problem with saying that they believe in God? They have no problem with saying that Jesus is their Savior. They have no problem with that. The commies, on the other hand, they say, well, I'm a devout Catholic. Really? I was raised Catholic. And let me tell you what. If we would have said that we supported abortion, that's, of course, I'm talking about way back when I was young in the 60s and 70s. If we would have supported abortion, we would have been escorted to the door. Not now. You know, Senile Joe, he talks about his devout Catholic faith. You know, he's not even allowed to take communion. His bishop, his cardinal in his area where he lived, forbid him to take communion because of his stance on abortion. So don't let Joe's fake spirituality touch your soul, bless your heart. Nancy Pelosi talking about, oh, we need to have open borders because as a Catholic, we need to take care of all people in the world. She's not doing it with her money, though, is she? She lives in a gated community. How many illegals are on her property? None, because commies are liars. They talk, but they don't mean it. Nancy Pelosi is going to be a multimillionaire her whole life, or however longer God lets her live, okay? And she's going to live in a gated community, and she is never going to be anywhere near the very people that she says she has to love and take care of. She's a phony, just like the rest of them. But you think back. When's the last time you saw one of these commies stand up and go, I'm a Christian. Jesus is my Savior. Oh, no. You don't hear that. Karl Marx is their Savior. You know, we look at these commies as people with just goofy ideas. You know, we go, you know, these are people that just they got a screw loose, okay? But that's not how the commies are looking at us. The commies look at us and they go, those are hateful people. We despise those people. And we don't care about their ideals. That's the difference between us. We're willing to accept anybody who may not agree with them. But conservatives are really the tolerant and inclusive people. These people say they are, but you know what? One thing you can be sure of with these commies is that whatever they confuse us or accuse us of doing, that's what they're doing. So if they say, oh, those conservatives are a bunch of racists, no, they are. They're already the ones that have separated black people from white people, brown people from white people. They've already separated the LGBT community from the straight community. That wasn't us that did it. That was them that did it. And now they bring on equity and social justice and critical race theory just to help us out, right? Yeah. I love how them commies help us out. So that's enough for now. Give you something to think about. So if you like listening to these videos, subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit the like button and share this video with some other people. And my email is listed in the channel. So if you have questions or you want me to discuss something with you, send me an email. That is, unless you're a Antifa or BLM supporter. You know, a funny thing on that is I had to get off Facebook because my own kids' friends blew up my Facebook page because I had the nerve to say all lives matter. But that's just me. I'm a conservative. I'm dumb enough to think that all lives do matter. They matter to God. So they should matter to us. But they don't matter to those commie Dems. Ohio conservative, out.